This is Adventure for Life. I'm Joel. Welcome to the Grenadier Expedition Namibia Synopsis videos. Hello, hello, hello. All right, well, I'm in my normal home video location for the Grenadier. And, you know, I said on the videos that I was going to do a synopsis video. Well, it's going to turn out to be a lot more than one video. You know, I said on the videos that I made from the trip that, you know, I kept telling myself, no, Joel, don't video that. No, don't video that. You're videoing too much. But I just couldn't help myself because there was so much good stuff, fantastic, beautiful stuff that we were able to see. And so, you know, I found myself doing the same thing. So it's been months and months and months since we did that trip. I have made and had all the videos edited. I have watched them all once. Now I've gone back and watched them all a second time to make the notes, to make this synopsis video. And when it's all said and done, I probably have roughly 100 clips that we're gonna show in this synopsis video because there was just so much good on the trip. So what I'm gonna do is go through chronologically through the trip, the high points, and show you a clip from each one of those high points. And hopefully that'll work out well, give you a really good idea of the trip overall. And for those that were there on the trip and that are watching, hopefully it'll bring back some great memories. So we started the trip at the Walvis Bay International Airport. So I told you for years that I have had on my list of things to do to go to Namibia and just see what it's all about. Again, I used to travel to South Africa, had a customer that lived in Namibia, and he kept telling me about all the great things there. And so that was what spurred my interest. And I'm so thankful that Ineos is putting these trips on. So we started at Walvis Bay International Airport, and then we headed up the Atlantic coast, which is called the Skeleton Coast. And why is it called the Skeleton Coast? Well, from my perspective, you know, along that entire shoreline, north of Walvis Bay, all the way till you get to Angola and probably past that, you know, there's just not really much out there. And so what you'll see is boats that have shipwrecked in the past along that coast, whales that have, you know, expired and washed up on the beach, seals, saw an airplane that was out there. And so I think that's probably why it's called the Skeleton Coast, probably mostly because of the whales and the seals. And, you know, and I said this on one of the videos, you know, till the last probably 50 or 100 years, landing on a boat on that Skeleton Coast or running aground was basically a death sentence due to the lack of food, water, and just how remote it was. There's no communication out there, no roads, and so there was just nowhere to get there. So it was extremely remote. So we entered the Skeleton Coast National Park, and they had a very nice, you know, entryway there, and we checked in. And again, the Skeleton Coast, exactly what its definition is probably under debate. So there's the actual national park itself, but I think you can call the entire coastline the Skeleton Coast. So we drove down the Skeleton Coast for some time, and then we had a beautiful sunset over the Atlantic. We spent the night on the beach, which was fantastic, and that next morning, and this is kind of a gross thing, but you know, I saw that seal carcass, didn't know what it was, and you know, found out that, you know, there were several sets of mounds and bones there from seals. Showed you our tent set up, our shower set up, and just kind of how the support group that we had for the first 3 days of tent camping, and they were phenomenal. We drove down the beach and just through the sand, and you know, the roads were somewhat improved at that point. But anyhow, we hit a couple of oasis areas, and in one of them, there were some lionesses that were in that area, supposedly sisters, and had been there for some period of time, and it had some children or whatnot. And so we got to see their footprints. We didn't get to see them, and unfortunately on the entire trip we didn't see any lions, but we got to see the evidence that lions were in that area. We drove up the coast for some distance and ended up stopping in what was probably the only quote-unquote town in that area, which was called Terrace Bay. And we stopped there to refuel our Grenadiers. And it was interesting that I didn't realize this, but we brought our fuel with us. So these were all diesel Grenadiers. And part of our support group was a truck that had a big fuel tank on the back. And we fueled them up using the old gravity feed method in just a clear white hose. We also got to see the diamond mine in Terrace Bay, or the remains of the diamond mine, which was basically just a big mound, and that mound was full of the equipment that they had used in the diamond mine back in the day when they were allowed to still search for diamonds there. We drove up the coast and went through another Skeleton Coast Park entranceway at Muva Bay, and Muva was spelled M-U-W-E, but it was pronounced Muva. That was interesting. Got to see some, they had it decorated up kind of nice, and there were some whale skulls that we got to see at the Muva Bay entrance. And then after we stopped there, we actually drove down some hills, which was our first, you know, junior technical little area down onto the beach, and then drove along the beach for some time. That's when we got to see the airplane crash landing site, and we saw remnants of engine parts and landing gear and those kinds of things from the airplane that had landed there, I think back in the 40s, as I remember. Then we came up to the first, you know, I'd say really exciting part of the driving part of it, which was we got to our first sand dune slip face. And it was kind of medium sized. I'd say it was maybe, you know, 80, 100 feet down. And of course these slip faces all have the same angle, because the angle is made by the wind and then the sand and its ability to stick to itself. And so we got to go down that, and that was really, really cool to do. And then we stopped in a beautiful location for lunch in a riverbed. Now, it didn't look like a riverbed because you saw very little evidence of water there, but there were two big cliffs on each side and a lot of green in that area, so obviously you knew water was coming through, and that was just a beautiful place to have lunch. And then we got to our campsite in the dunes at the end of the second day, and that was just really, really cool place to be out in the middle of nowhere, kind of.